Hello, I'm Jackie Schollerman with Schollerman Group of Coldwell Banker Realty here in downtown Palo Alto office. I am with Bob Vale, a prominent estate planning attorney in San Mateo, California. And Bob, are you going to be talking to us about the medical directive? That is a really important issue that for our viewers should know about.
That is what I'll be talking about today. Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you so much for the introduction and thank you for this opportunity. I think advanced healthcare directives are a very important part of an estate plan. One of the questions that people will ask me, well, who is who needs an advanced healthcare directive? And the answer is anybody from 18 to 80 and beyond. So once you reach adulthood, you are ready for an advanced directive. So what does that mean? It means if you send the kids off to college, do they need an advanced healthcare directive? Not a bad idea that they would have one of those. A lot of times, single individuals will say, well, I don't need an advanced healthcare directive, but actually they may need one more than anybody else because I'll get into it in a minute, but an advanced healthcare directive provides authority to an agent to make healthcare decisions for us. So if we are single in the world and we don't have close relatives that can make those healthcare decisions for us, to appoint one in a healthcare directive may save us from having to go into a conservatorship or something like that, or to have a lot of confusion about who can make medical decisions for us. But let me back up, and I'd like to give this example. I'm speaking of California healthcare directives, and California healthcare directives, I like to analogize to a can of 3-in-1 oil. So those of us that have been around for a while, out in the garage, we have the 3-in-1 oil. And it's called 3-in-1 oil because it does three things. Well, a healthcare directive also does three things. The first thing a healthcare directive does is it appoints healthcare agents. So in my case, I'm married and I have a 30-year-old son. My first agent on my healthcare directive is my wife. And my second agent is my son, which would kind of make sense in my family situation. What does that mean? It means that if I am in a car accident, I'm at the hospital and I'm unable to speak for myself, but let's say I have a broken leg, and the physician wants authority to do an operation to fix my leg, the physician may go ahead and emergently set my leg without somebody signing a document. But let's say it's a week later and I'm still unconscious and my leg's still broken and it's time for a permanent repair of that leg. Well, the doctor wants somebody to sign a consent for that surgery. And who would that person be? Well, right there on my healthcare directives, I've appointed somebody. Now, in my case, my wife could probably sign that without the healthcare directive. But again, it's helpful to have that. And if my wife wasn't available, it would be my son. He could step in because he's named secondarily. So that's the first part of a healthcare directive, is giving somebody authority to make medical decisions for you if you are not able to make them. That's important. I think that even a more significant role of the healthcare directive, it is called an advanced healthcare directive. And the advanced part, in this part, we're talking about end-of-life decisions. So what we are doing in our document is we are making an end-of-life decision, or we're allowed to make an end-of-life decision. And what we are asking our healthcare agent to do is not to make that decision for us one way or the other, but to follow our wishes. So if I have put in my healthcare directive that I want palliative care if the physicians have determined that I am close to death, then I'm hoping that my agent will support that decision that I've made in my document. And that when the doctor says, well, you know, Bob's got this terminal disease and he's not able to speak, and we think he has 3 or 4 days left, but we'd like to do this routine surgery to remove his big toe or something like that, I would hope my son would say, no, let's just keep Bob comfortable because you've told me that the surgery isn't going to advance his life and he's going to be leaving anyway. Now, people may have another view on that and they may say, no, I want that big toe taken care of. And they can say that in their healthcare directive. And it would be good if they talked to their healthcare agents to let them know what their end of life decision was going to be. But that's really what you do in that document. And I think it's so important to understand is that it's my healthcare directive. I am making that decision today about how I want things to go for me in the future. And I'm expecting my healthcare agent to follow my wishes. So you can appreciate that if I'm going to have a good advocate in the hospital, I should talk to my advocate, let them know, number one, that I have listed them as a healthcare agent to follow my decisions, and then let them know what my thinking is so that if they ever have to report to the hospital and when the doctor says, well, what did Bob want? They can say, well, here's his document and this is what he told me. Wouldn't that be nice? So a lot of families have a lot of struggles around that because nobody's done that work. What I'm talking about right now is a taboo subject in our society. We don't like talking about end of life. Not all of us are going to face a situation where we're going to be unconscious and have to have somebody else make that decision for us. If we are in that place, and many of us do end up there, this is a good thing to have that discussion and give people some guidance about where you want to end up. And the last thing you do with a healthcare directive, or you can do with a healthcare directive, is you can make determinations about organ and tissue donation. So you can say that you don't want to make organ and tissue donation, or you can indicate that you are a donor. Now, we know there are lots of other places to make, or not lots of other places, but on your driver's license, you can indicate you're a donor. You can, through a state registry, indicate that you want to be a donor. But the healthcare directive is a third place that you can do it. So again, the can of 3-in-1 oil, the healthcare directive, three things. I can appoint an agent to make healthcare decisions for me if I am unable to make those. I can appoint an advocate to advocate for my position on end of life care if I'm in that situation. Again, I have to be in a facility, I have to be unconscious, unable to make my own determinations, and therefore my healthcare agent is going to say, this is what Bob wanted, please follow what he wanted. That's what that person's going to do. And finally, organ and tissue donation. So that's pretty much it. Once you're over 18, you should have one of these. We have a file. I'm here at my desk. In my desk, I have a file drawer, and in that file drawer, we have a file, and I have my sister-in-laws, my brothers, healthcare directive, my sisters, my wife's, my sons, and they all have one of mine so that if anybody needs it, they'll be available. And by the way, copies of healthcare directives are good. And finally, what you need to know about a California healthcare directive is it has to be signed, dated, and either notarized or witnessed by two people. That's what the physicians look at to make sure it's valid. Has it been signed? Is it dated? Has it been notarized or signed by two independent witnesses? So make sure you take care of that. Get that document. You can share it via PDF email. Copies are valid, so there's no reason not to have one. We actually we have one on our website. If you're a Kaiser patient, you can get them through Kaiser. You can pull down a healthcare directive online. They're not a document that requires an attorney. It's not a bad idea as part of a comprehensive estate plan to have the attorney prepare one, but you don't need an attorney to have one of those. And that's enough. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate the time, Jackie. Thank you for letting me share about advanced healthcare directives in California.
Thank you. And Bob, I'm sure there are going to be viewers who are interested in learning more. How should they contact you?
Well, they can contact me through our offices in San Mateo, and either through our phone or through our website. It's the firm is McDowell Cotter, McDowall, and the last name is Cotter, Cotter. But I think if you Google my name, it's Vale. You'll get information. You can contact the firm. If you go to our website, you can actually, if you go into resources, we actually have a healthcare directive in there that you can download and complete.
Great.
Absolutely.
That's a great idea and great advice. Thank you so much for your valuable information. And I can attest that a couple years ago, I had to go through the same process with my mother and made my life easier because I read the information and I knew exactly what my mother wanted to do.
Yeah, if you're going to be a good advocate, you need to know what people want. So it's so important. So good for you, Jackie, for doing that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.